Recording.
We'll call the Wilmer City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 22nd to order. This is a special meeting. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin,
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Here.
Osmus, Butterfield,
Here.
O'Brien,
Here.
Osk,
Here.
Davis, Plowman,
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Councilmember Osmus is present.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her on the screen.
Julie, you want to give us a thumbs up? She's frozen again. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a special meeting, so the agenda that is in front of us will be the agenda that stands. Our first task of this evening is to interview Leslie Valiant as the position for city administrator. So Leslie, go ahead, you can come to the mic, that'd be great. We're very grateful for you to come out this evening and to interview with us. You've had a full day. For those of you that are watching, Leslie started at 2 o'clock with a meeting with the chamber, with the business community. Followed that up at 3 o'clock with a meeting with our staff and had a question and answer with our staff. And then followed that up with a tour of the community by Aaron Backman, who is our economic development director for Candido County and the city of Wilmer. And then we had a nice dinner over at the conference center. And that started at 5:30, and now we're here. And so on behalf of the city, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for putting your hat in for consideration. How tonight will go is that the council will ask a series of questions, and when they're done asking questions, you'll have an opportunity to address the council how you wish. Patty, I'm not sure if you want to make any opening comments. I don't believe you were going to, but so we have a very qualified candidate. As you know, when we were looking for a candidate, we were looking for somebody with local connections. We were looking for somebody with experience, and we were looking for somebody that was willing to locate within the community. And so Leslie meets all of the requirements that you guys had asked of the Baker Tilly to bring a candidate to us. So with that, we'll go ahead and feel free to ask as many questions as you wish. I'll conclude the questioning when there's no more council members that have questions, and I will move to my right, and I will add Councilmember Osmus in after Councilmember Fagerly on the questioning time. So with that, I'll go to Councilmember Fagerly for the first question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Leslie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting you earlier. Everyone knows that stress of the city administrator can be tough at times. How do you deal with stress?
How do I deal with stress? Right now, it's my 30-minute drive home. And then just relaxing at home and taking care of the animals at the farm place is what I do right now.
Thank you.
That's what I do.
Councilmember Osmus.
Good evening.
Hi, Julie.
I guess I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. The computer was telling me that there was a network connection problem, but I'm someplace in Missouri. So, and in your leadership role, what have you done?
Julie, can you text the question to me and I'll ask her the question? You're breaking up. There was something about in your leadership role, something, but
Yeah.
let me text her real quick. Tom, why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Leslie, what brought you to apply for this position?
Life changes, and over the last 12 years that I've been at the city of Spicer, this position has opened up many times, as we all know. But during that time, I was at home. I was actually live on the family farm with my parents. And during that time, I didn't think it was a good time for me to, I think this position needs to be in the community. My position at the city of Spicer is in a smaller community allows me that flexibility of not having to be in that community, but I think this one, your administrator should be in this community. And so my father just passed away in October, so now I'm in that transition stage. So this is the next step in that transition stage.
Councilman, Mike.
Hello, Leslie.
Hi, Mike.
I did ask you the same question earlier, but most of the council did not hear the response. And I think we all want to know how you work with other agencies as well as the public. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked you earlier, and that's about Jeremy Lazinski. And I think you could probably tell him what I'm talking about.
Yes. Jeremy Lazinski was the DNR Trails representative at the city of Spicer, and we worked very closely with Jeremy multiple times. The biggest project that we had was when the new boat ramp was put in at the city of Spicer with the DNR. At that same time, I was working with the DNR, Jeremy, and a representative down from the state in St. Paul, also their engineers. We were looking at their design. We also, at the same time, asked them to allow the city of Spicer to put in a marina. We felt this was the time now that the city needed its own marina because our population is getting older. Some of them are moving off the lake. They now want to live into a condo, but they still want lake access. So it felt that this was the time to do that. So through that process in the DNR, we worked really closely and tried to really negotiate our strength into why the city of Spicer needed that. And working with the DNR can be slow, but working with the city is slow too. So we were fortunate that at that time also, we were also in negotiations, well, not even negotiations, we were in talks with TPI Hospitality with the Hampton Inn. And through our talks with them, it was important that they would have some type of lake access also, so it was very important. And then we were fortunate to meet with the DNR one last time, and with their final look as to after their public comments on the boat landing and everything. And they then told us that, yes, we could have 24 slips for the city of Spicer on the north side of the DNR boat ramp. Bear in mind, though, the city does own land in there too, so this is a joint venture, and it always has been a joint venture with the city and the DNR. And so when I got that news, I did call up TPI Hospitality and told them what had transpired. And I would say probably 2 to 3 days later, we got the call that they were going to build a Hampton Inn in the city of Spicer. So through those partnerships, it benefited the city greatly. It came out then that we had to then, with TPI Hospitality coming forward, it meant that we needed to do some more planning Lake Avenue North. The sewer and the water dated back to 1935 and 1955 respectively, and we needed to contact the county because it is a county road. So there was a call to Mel Odens. We sat down with Mel, figured out how that payment of the county would work in there, and then also with TPI Hospitality, the hotel wasn't going to be where it is originally, where it is right now. It actually would have only been about 6 feet from Urban Escape. And so we worked with TPI Hospitality to buy the other 2 lots to the south of it and move the hotel down. And then we purchased that property because they could move much quicker than we could. They could purchase that property. We then in turn bought that property back from them. So where you see the city parking lot now, we purchased that from TPI Hospitality as part of that. And then with the TIF funding that we helped get TPI there, we were able to capture another $800,000 of TIF revenue over the 25 years to pay towards the bond that Lake Avenue North required for that reconstruction. So it worked out really well for all of us. It really was a taxpayer savings too, to have that Hampton Inn come in.
Thank you.
Justin?
Leslie, thanks for being here tonight and for your long day with us here in Wilmer. There's probably been a lot of comments made kind of addressing, the great work that you've done in Spicer. Spicer, obviously a smaller city than Wilmer. So tell me a little bit about, I'm asking like a 2-part question, like what's similar going from running a city like Spicer to Wilmer? What's going to be similar? What do you already know? What are you already good at? And then what's new? What's going to be the new challenges when you increase that population, work with more staff? What's going to be different?
What will be the same is that state statutes don't change. There's the same for every community. TIF funding does not change for one community or the other either. And so as far as that, I see that that's going to be very similar. Budgets don't change. It always comes down to what is the budget? What's the increase in the general tax levy? How are we going to keep that low enough for our constituents, our business people? We want to always try to keep that very mindful because we want to keep those people in town. It's very important to keep our businesses in town and to also at the same time, though, we still have issues of street reconstruction and things like that. So how do we go forward with that? What's different here would be just the larger staff. But what is also, what I can see is that you've got great department heads, and I see that working with them is going to be just really, I think, just a really fun time. I really think that after having this department head meeting today, it was very encouraging. I enjoyed all of them. They asked tough questions, but it was really kind of fun to answer those questions too.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to Julie next. She's back connected. So Julie, we're going to give you another shot at it.
Thank you. Leslie, I was wondering what you've done to prepare employees, to develop them, and help them in their leadership role.
Okay, I want to just make sure I understand you, Julie. You want to know how I have prepared employees to move into leadership roles? Is that the sum of it?
What do you do for employee development? What do you do for employee development? How do you help them?
Sure. I think part of the employee development is not just being in the office or being at their job. Employee development also is important to see what else is out there. So going to retreats or going to their respective conferences is really important, because even if they just bring back one thing, it is also one thing that we probably didn't know. And they also get to understand that they're not alone in this job. There's a lot of people that are in the same position. They're having the same issues. It's surprising, but cities do have the same issues. But how they tackle those issues are the key. How did they do that? What was their downfall? How can we learn from them? And I think it's important that also the employees understand that I really am an open door person. I want to know if there's issues. I'd rather know from them what the issue is first and foremost, or even from the council first and foremost. I want to talk to you. I right now start my day at 7 in the morning, and if I move over here, I expect that I will start my day at 7 in the morning. And it ends when it ends.
Vicky?
All right, well, he took part of my question, so. I'm wondering, what would you do to build staff morale, and how do you, why is that important in running a city?
In this size city, it's very important. Well, even in a small city, it's very important, but it's much easier in a small city, isn't it, to build staff morale? You can have those small get-togethers or whatever. I had heard from the staff too today that they used to have something like that, get-together or informal time. They got to know each other. I heard today that staff feels that they don't know a lot of the people anymore. They probably don't know their families. And so I would like, I kind of am waiting to hear staff on how they would like to approach that. I think it's more important that they say how they want to do it than how I say they want to do it. I'm new. I want to know what they want to do.
Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Leslie, for being here tonight. We talk a lot about the term leadership, and I believe that's a multifaceted term in a community of many sizes, but especially our community. You have elected officials as leaders, we have community leaders, and then we have leadership within the city of Wilmer internally. How do you find balance or strike balance in dealing with those different groups of leaders, and knowing that when everybody can coalesce, it's all great, but also having varied perspectives is also good, because we get lots of different ideas brought to the table. What is your leadership style when it comes to all of those varied ideas coming together, sometimes when they differ?
Well, when they differ, that's where you try to find the common ground. And I think that I like to listen. I like to ask questions of the various people. I like to have more of those small committees type sort of things together, especially those that have different point of views. I found that if you did that, it also helped smooth over those different point of views. People start to see things differently. If you have just a small group, then those questions are easily answered also. And then from there, I expect that they would then in turn go to those that are probably questioning them, so that circle builds. And then when that circle builds, and that's how you gain the trust outside further for the problem also that's being tackled.
All right, thank you.
Audrey?
Thank you. Leslie, what do you see as a challenge or challenges that face Wilmer in the next 2 years? And then how would you deal with that?
The challenges I see, after talking to one of the department heads today too, and driving on the roads, I see what he's talking about. So probably the infrastructure, and then the other challenges, the city of Wilmer has a lot on their plate. They've got a lot of new things happening. They have a lot of ideas that need to come to fruition yet too. And over that time, I really want to sit down and understand what the council priorities are. Where do you see your priorities? And then from there, then how does the department staff work those priorities in to make those objectives come through?
Thank you.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there was a councilman way back when that would he had a question or a concern, he'd go to a department head. And the administrator at that time found out about it and said, you can never call that department head, you go through me. Have you ever had an issue like that where you had to reprimand a council member or elected
No.
official?
I've never had that issue,
Okay.
but I've had to say that our council people will call me if they have an issue. And I've also had my department heads will call me. I've also had where the department head has been open to some of those questions too. So I don't. Right now, that would have to, if that happens, I would also talk to the department head and ask him if that was how he felt about it, or she felt about it. And then also then talk to the council person and try to, if that's the policy of the council, which it probably should be, especially in a large council like this, then that's the policy that they should all follow too. It's important that, you're the policymakers, and to understand those policies is just as important as the policies to staff to understand those policies.
So you'd prefer that we have a policy that goes through the city administrator? If you say
Yeah.
you can talk to that department head,
Well, I don't know why couldn't we, I think that that's also something that you should probably be able to call that department head in and we could have the discussion together.
Okay.
And that probably would make the department head more comfortable if there is really some type of issue. And I think the council should feel that that would be the best policy also. It's probably not good for anyone to just singly have a conversation with somebody.
thank you.
Tom?
We have a lot of open positions here in the city of Wilmer. How would you go about organizing and saying which ones you would need filled first?
That one, I would talk to the department heads to see what they feel is more important. I'd talk to HR. I know we have an new HR person coming in, but you also have somebody that's already been here for a few months. And I also would ask this council, what do you think needs to be filled first? I think it's important that, if it's a job that needs to be for engineering or something that is part of a project that's going on, then that might be the first job that we should probably look for.
Mike?
You know the history of our administration, what we have. And you probably also know that we just had 2 people that we had picked or chosen to be our administrator, and we had one, and that one decided not to come. The other one's still out there, okay? This council also talked about the possibility of finding a budget to hire an assistant position in your position. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but I would just like to go over it again. Would you be interested in filling that position? I would say not immediately, but as soon as possible if you got in? In your,
I think the assistant administrator position is a good idea. I think that's really a solid idea. The city of city of Wilmer, too used to saying city of. But the city should be looking at how do we keep that homegrown type sort of cycle of employees building, and that's important. And I think that, I'm sure that, Jim Felt as the chief of police has been looking at his staff and saying, okay, well, when I retire, who would I look to take that position? Or who have I been trying to train into that position? Is that working? And so I'd like to have those discussions with the department heads too, as to how they see succession happening. A succession plan is very important for a city this large. And, we all know that there's going to be a lot of retirements just because of the baby boomers coming to retirement age, and so it's going to happen. So we should be somewhat prepared to try to get those that have been in the lower level positions to see and step them up into higher positions.
So you would be in favor of filling that position
I
as
am
soon
in
as
favor
possible?
of the city city administrator position, because you should have somebody that's in that position that is, got the young family, they're young, they're coming in, then they get to learn your community, they get to more involved also, they get to know all the ins and outs as that lower administrator, but then they also, if something happens to your city administrator, they are the ones that council should be able to look to have that guidance. They should know also what's going on.
Thank you.
Justin?
Thank you. If you were selected as the city administrator, what would your like top priorities be that you'd look to accomplish in your first month or two of employment?
My top priority would probably start with the employment issue, finding out just where should that first employment look for. Are we going to do it all at the same time, or are we going to just do it gradually, or is it going to be a rolling month-to-month type sort of process? I'd also look to the council. I'd like to know the council, what are your ideas where should I start first? You are in this chair, you're the ones that are seeing these projects, and I'd like to know what your thoughts are as to where I should begin that process. I'm looking for guidance from you. You're an important part of the whole success of the operation.
Vicki?
What would you do if the mayor or a council member begins to overstep their role as an elected official and interferes with the day-to-day operations of the city?
Probably sit you down and ask why. Because if you feel that you have to do that, then there's a failure somewhere. And so why is there a failure? I don't think that, I think that your department heads are very good, and I'm going to be leaning on them quite heavily, of course, for the first few months. But I will also be asking of you for the first few months, how's this going? It's important to know where you're standing, and I think that listening today, that I think it's been difficult over the last few years on staff. So, and always having a council person come to you is very nerve-wracking on a staff person.
Thank you.
Andrew?
Thank you. We talk a lot about health and vitality as a community, and a lot of that is surrounded by growth and development. And Wilmer is a growing and developing community, and I think we all unilaterally believe that will lead to ultimate success. You're at a specific advantage because you're close enough to be maybe an outsider looking in. I don't mean that negatively, but you're close enough to see the way that the city operates and the way that it has operated. In your opinion, what are the Wilmer community's best assets that can be built upon in the near future, both in the near future and then as stepping stones to even bigger things long term?
Yeah, I've been coming to this community for many, many years. Like I said, I grew up in Litchfield. Wilmer was the place that, growing up, we would come shopping. Loved going downtown shopping. It was always the best experience ever. I always enjoyed it. And then when I graduated, I came to the city of Wilmer. I lived here for 2 years as I was attending college here. And it is a great community. And so I've seen it change over the years, and I've seen all the additions, and in a way kind of been envious that in the community I live in, we haven't had those changes. The one thing that I also see that is a big strength of this is how the county and the city and the other various groups like Vision 2040, the public policy meetings, the chamber, how all that just interconnects to everything that this city does. And it's such a great strength right there on that. I've worked in Stearns County. I have not seen that kind of cooperation between different factions. I mean, not just governmental, but it's also your public, your private, nonprofit organizations. It's been amazing. I didn't see that in Meeker County also. It's a great strength of this whole region. That's why I believe Wilmer is a regional hub and why you're going to continue to grow. As far as, what was the end of yours? What was the strength? What do I think
Just
is your strength?
some of the assets that stick out to you as being building blocks for the future.
Yeah, I think that your assets, well, your YMCA, your childcare availability. I also have to say that I think a civic arena is an asset. I had a son that played hockey for 14 years. I think hockey is important. So your school is important, and you've got a great school district. And you've got new schools. That's always a big benefit in a city to have a new school. New schools just are a nice draw.
Okay, thank you.
Audrey?
Thank you. How would you embrace and promote diversity and establish an environment where both residents and employees feel valued and respected?
Yeah, like I said, over the years, I've watched Wilmer with their diversity. I grew up with diversity also. You might not think of that in Litchfield, but we did have Genio in Litchfield. And growing up, we did have diversity in my school also. It was a bit of a change, but it taught you a lot. It really did. How would I embrace it? Well, just trying to get out to the community, talking to those people, working through various organizations, finding out just what I don't know, which, how did their life change when they came here? Seeing how they would succeed into a business. What do they see? Bringing in new people also brings in new ideas, and that's really important for a community to continue to grow. If you bring in new people, they may have a job, and while they're at that job, then they see, well, I want to have a business. I want to do this now. So how can we get them into a different business or help them with that? I think that's important.
Thank you.
Any other council members have follow-up questions? Councilmember Fagerly, followed by Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if you're chosen, what's your time frame for giving a notice to your current employer?
I had talked to the mayor, and I said 3 weeks is what we're planning. So within the 3-week time. But being so close, there's times that, I can start also, or learning, meeting with people, doing those kind of things beforehand too.
Thank you.
What would you prefer, work sessions or committee structure for the council?
Work sessions and community structure, how's that? I think we can do both.
Did you hear the saw start? Additional comments or questions from council members?
Julie.
Do you
Julie?
have something? Yep, Julie's got her hand raised.
Julie, go ahead.
I'm sure you've followed what's been going on with the City Hall and the Community Center and the possibility of it relocating to the old JCPenney at the Candy Mall. when you heard that, what did you think of, and what's your position on that location, or any other location?
Well, I haven't really studied other locations. At first thought, it sounds like a possibility. So I would have to dig into more of that and really understand that, how that would look. So right now, I'm kind of sitting on the fence on that one. I think that your city hall should be something that everybody is very proud of, and should be one of those buildings that people look at and say, wow, yeah, that's a nice city hall. Looks like a great place to work. So to me, your city hall should be really a nice focal building of the community and show what the community's like too. I know it didn't answer everything, but
Justin?
We've talked a lot tonight about all of the employment vacancies and the need to prioritize that. You've spoken about that. Just speaking kind of in generalities, not a specific role, but when you're evaluating candidates, what do you look for? What's important to you as you make a hire?
what I look for is, one thing is how long have they been in the position that they're in? If they've been there for some time, well, then they've grown into that position too, and so they understand that position. But also, then you know that they're not hopping from one community to the other either, trying to find, and why is that? That always would raise a red flag with me if I see short-term type sort of timelines. And I think that the other thing I look for is, I also look to see, really, what have they been involved in? Are they involved in community? Are they involved in different organizations? If they're already in a city within, like the state of Minnesota, are they involved in various organizations such as the League of Minnesota Cities? Are they involved in the managers, city administrator organization, maybe the clerk's organization? What are they in? I think that's important, that they are in some type of organization, because then they know, it shows that it's important to learn more about their job and what else is out there. What are they missing, what's new in the position.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? John, anything to ask or anything to follow up at this point?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I do not.
Okay. Well, I believe that we're getting close to the end of questions. We'd like to give you an opportunity to respond back or even to ask the council questions. If there's questions that you have of us, either an individual council member or myself, or our interim city administrator, please understand that John's only been on the job for exactly 2 weeks, but he has done some yeoman lifting in that short 2-week period of time, and I know that you and John go back. And so be a little gentle on him, but if you need to take a left hook, go for it. So any comments that you'd like to make, and then also any questions that you would have for the council?
I guess the one thing that I'm eager to know is, what is the council's priority for all this that's on your plate? What do you see as your first priority?
We'll go on the council and just give a short answer on what your first priority is. And Julie, we'll put you in right after Rick, so you know where you're coming in. So you'll be second, I'm sorry. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My priority is to get a city administrator so that the administrator can start hiring pieces to fill the rest of employment here. So that's my priority.
Julie?
thing to get a handle on the local option sales tax first, and then start for the Hall Community Center.
So what I heard her say is look at the local option sales tax and then the community/civic center.
Okay.
City hall / community center. Tom?
Putting the people first, that's my priority. Taxpayers.
Watch the bottom line. Is that what you're looking for?
Mike?
I want to see us start to build a foundation. I want to see a good administrator that can be a leader for the person underneath. And we can look forward to having that, what you had said, a person underneath that would learn the system and that would be ready to take over when that individual, that mentor would be leaving. So I want to see some stabilization, some foundation.
Justin?
I'd say fairly similar to what Councilmember O'Brien just said. I was going to phrase it as health of the staff. I want them to feel valued and appreciated. I want the team to be full with good leadership and direction. I think that's how we accomplish all the other things. And it starts with the city administrator that values teamwork.
I'm in
Vicki?
agreement with Councilmember O'Brien and ask, I want our staff to enjoy their job and just to feel appreciated, and I feel like everything else will flow from that, so.
Yeah, wow, these are good comments, so it's hard to come up with other ones beyond that. But I think, yeah, that foundational piece is crux, because we have so many things going on, and all of them can and will be great things with the right foundation that we can build upon. So easy to focus on negative, the few negative things when there's an abundance of positive things. But I think, if we stabilize, if we, get everything trued up, I think we're headed great directions. Thanks.
Audrey?
Thank you. I would say to get the city administrator hired and then to look at our organizational chart or our structure to see what positions will help us to build that foundation. So not just fill a position, but look what do we need and how can we help our current staff, and bringing in additional staff to do the right thing for the positions that are there. And so I think that'll help us to create an environment to be able to continue on building on the tasks that we need to do.
From the mayor's office, my number one concern is our administrator position. It's been a revolving door, and with the revolving door, it doesn't bring stability to staff. I think the reason we've had a number of turnovers in staff is that they've lacked direction. Staff doesn't want to know what direction the city is going. They want to know that it's going in a direction, and they don't want it to be a sailboat. They want it to be a freight liner. And they want to know that when they come into work in the morning, the task is going to be the same as when they left the night before. And not that they're going to be changing the direction midstream. And some of that falls on the back of the council, but predominantly that falls on the back of the administrator. The administrator needs to keep the staff headed in the direction that the council has set, but the council needs to set direction that's clear, concise, and achievable. And so that's my number one goal. My number two goal is we have saw in our last numerous hires within the city of Wilmer, an administrator come in with their feet on fire, and they want to serve, and they want to get the job done, and they want to make it happen. And 6 months later, they're piled under a pile of paperwork that they can't even see the top of the pile, let alone starting to work it. And so getting an assistant city administrator on board is going to be, in my opinion, the key to the success of the next city administrator, simply because without that support network and without that teamwork to build on, the next administrator will be overwhelmed in 6 months. We can't let that happen again. If we want to ride a one-speed bicycle that's a steel frame, we can do that. If we want to get on a titanium bicycle, 27 speed, and get after it, we need to put the pieces in place to make that happen. And I will echo what I think I heard everybody's say at this table, and that comes with supporting our staff. And a strong administrator will support the staff as long as we do not overburden that administrator.
Sure.
I think you got a lot of answers,
Yes, I appreciate it.
and so,
Thank you.
I think everybody was pretty honest,
Mhm.
and I think it's pretty black and white. Additional comments?
I don't have any additional, I've enjoyed my day. I've enjoyed meeting everybody. I thank you all for taking the time to ask me to come in, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate all your candor. That's very nice to hear, and I agree. I think that I could fill that position for you, and then we could move on and get to staff moving towards a different goal, getting coalesced. That'd be nice. And getting on as city assistant at city administrator into the position and moving forward that way and start getting the other projects then on the table and start moving all those forward. I think it's a great challenge, it really is, and it's a great opportunity, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up comments from anybody before we head over to Patty? Any other comments? Do any of our staff members that are here wish to make any comments? Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Leslie, thank you.
Thank you.
You are a very strong candidate.
Thank you.
And Baker Tilly, we thank you for bringing us another candidate in. We do appreciate that. And the next thing on the agenda for us is consider directing Baker Tilly to negotiate an employment offer if that's the direction the council wishes to go. So at this point, I'll have Patty have a conversation with you, and we will deliberate as a council.
Yep.
So I think you would hear something from us within the next week for sure. So,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You
you
bet.
very much.
You bet.
Have a good evening.
You bet. Thank you. Patty, did you want to make any comments, or are you good for us?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Again, tonight you have a very tough choice to make. You had very good candidates that were brought forward and interviewed on the last time. I heard from each and every one of you on what you were looking for when we needed to go back out and take a look at possibly some other candidates. And that's exactly what our firm did, went out and started to recruit individuals that meet the criteria that you laid out. You were looking for someone that had city experience. You were very open about having this person engaged in the community, and that I heard loud and clear. And then, of course, you have a lot of projects that are going on, and you need someone to be able to come in and understand what's happening. And as I heard throughout the day, from each of because I sat in on each of the interviews, they asked a lot of good questions about the stability here, wanting this person to be here for a long period of time. Staff was very honest with the candidate too, and that's what they were looking for, is someone that they can grow with, that they can continue on and build these projects together. But the main thing was that stability, and that's what I heard over and over from you folks too. And I feel I brought you a very highly qualified candidate that I also asked the staff and asked the community to do a survey. They did have a short period of time to get that information into the system. I also entered a few of the employees into the system too. None of them are identified by name. They are categorized by business or community members, and then it was employees. So you got to hear from them too on what their comments were. So that's what is in your email that I sent you not too long ago. So tonight is a decision if you would like to move forward with Leslie. If that were the case, what we would then do is get the team together and negotiate a contract for her to start employment here. You also heard what her condition would be. She would be looking at about 3 weeks out. Because she is so close, there could be some swapping of times, or she, as you could probably hear, she loves to work. So she would probably be over here on evenings and on weekends also to get the job done.
Okay, so council, we have a candidate that's in front of us, and this is the time that we deliberate. I would like us to do that deliberation up front, and then if somebody is willing to make a motion or wants us to proceed with a conditional offer, that would be appropriate as well. So council members that wish to make comments.
Mayor, could I ask one, or just, I forgot to mention something. The process that we walked through with Leslie was very similar to what we did with all the other candidates. As I shared with you, criminal background checks were done. Also, references were done throughout the day, too. Council members, the mayor, other people were contacted about Leslie, and they came very highly recommended for her to be the next administrator. One of the council members that I talked to pretty much said, nope, she's no good. Nope, you don't want her because they want her to stay. So the references came back very high. So thank you.
Yeah, and I did call and talk to Denny up in Spicer, and very much the same. Very easy to work with, very approachable. One thing that she is very blunt. If there's an issue, she's going to address it straight up, and you won't have to question where you stand. She will tell you where you stand. If you disagree, she will discuss her point, but she understands that it is the elected body's responsibility to make the decision and set the policy. So those are good things. Those are strengths. And again, like I said earlier, we're not looking for a sailboat. We're looking for a Freightliner. And so I think those are very strong strengths. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of discussion. So is there a motion in order?
Mayor, we've talked about how important it is for our next choice to actually live in Wilmer, because we haven't had that. And talking with her today, she's got that home farm. She's ready to move off her home farm and come to Wilmer. That's a big commitment to leave there. So I would make a motion that we would offer her a position as assistant in this position.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. Okay, more deliberation, discussion. Councilmember Plowman, followed by Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm in favor of this motion. I appreciate the discussion that's been had revolving around the idea of succession planning and how that relates to this position, and I believe it's a pertinent topic. I don't know where we stand on the logistics, but I would, at least from my own personal perspective, that's going to be an integral piece of this puzzle, in that I believe in the private sector, they've got it down that succession planning is the key to a well-run organization, so that your now is taken care of and the future is taken care of. And I believe that's something that we've lacked. And I've heard it multiple times from multiple different people as part of this council. And so that's positive to me. That feels like a positive move. And also hearing feedback from the candidate themselves, that's something an idea that they support. Again, I know that there's logistics that we're going to have to work through in order to make that happen. But I believe that that's a positive part of the discussion, and I believe that lends credence to the motion and the direction that we're moving. And so I appreciate that was also discussed.
Mr. Herron, Interim Administrator Herron, can you address a little bit about Councilmember Plowman's question on that succession planning and what you would think might be a good thing to consider going down that path?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Uh, In my opinion, I appreciate the discussion and the insight and foresight of the comments that I've heard from the council. I fully agree with those comments that they have a well run organization. You need that depth. You need that bench strength. You need somebody that will carry on in the event something were to happen to your key people. So I would support that concept. Yes, we get a city administrator, hire it, but I think that has to be a top priority that we move forward with and with filling that assistant position. It's key to the success of not only the community, but the management of staff, to motivate staff, to make the staff feel that they're welcome, to developing that place of employment that they're asking for. Those are all part of the complete puzzle, starting with the right city administrator, followed up by bench strength with the assistant city administrator on down. So no, I support where this discussion is going here. I guess the question that I would ask to build off of that, I'm a little bit of a disadvantage as I am not aware of the comments by staff or the community on what was titled by Patty in areas where experience would not be a good fit. I guess I would suggest that, we look at those comments from the community, we ask for them, that we look at those comments and make sure that we are comfortable with either Leslie addressing them here tonight with us, that they're really not issues, and or that we're willing to provide the tools for her to be successful in addressing what came through today as possibly weaknesses that the community might have picked up on that we maybe didn't, or maybe we did pick up on them. But are we willing to help, our administrator be successful and give, her, in this case, I'll say her because Leslie, the motion is made to offer it to her, to be successful. And to be successful, do we need to look at what the community and staff picked up as weaknesses? And are we able to help address those?
Okay. Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to say thank you to Patty for all of your work. I think at the beginning of this, there were some of us saying, let's hire the person with the most experience, and some of us saying, let's hire the local person, and some of us saying, let's hire the best candidate. And you brought us a candidate tonight who has great experience, who is local. You brought us, I think, the best candidate. And so thank you for that. And I just want to say I really enjoyed the comments that were made here tonight by Leslie, really identifying herself as a team player. She highlighted that importance of staff morale and improving our staff's morale, and that kind of combined with her history of looking for genuine feedback, I think that really reflects her desire to be a team player. I think that's what we're all looking for. She spoke often about utilizing the different gifts, the various gifts that our community has and our council has, and probably very importantly too, what our staff has. And so I think her personality is a good fit. I'm definitely supportive of the motion, and thank you again, Patty, for working really hard to to adjust to the difficult situation we found ourselves in a few weeks ago.
Councilmember Osmus. Thank you.
Things that we haven't talked about is the competency testing, the leadership testing that she did. And that's something that I feel is important to look at, because that's always been a true indicator of the person that we're hiring and their personality. And I thought she came out very high on leadership and conflict management. And the thing that I really liked was in the insight wheel, she's very high. She leans towards being a promoter and a persuader, which tells me that she's very inclusive. and that she will take input from employees, from the community, from the council to get things done. I did read through some comments that were submitted this afternoon from the business people and from the employees, and it seemed to me like one of the biggest concerns was that she was coming from a smaller community and moving to a larger community, and whether or not she would have the capability to do that. I personally just feel like that isn't going to be a hurdle, because what I like is that she is familiar with city management already. It's just going to be at a larger scale. She's familiar with Minnesota state law and statutes and ordinances and how to run a city. And so those are all very positive things that she brings to the table. And I'm excited at the caliber of candidate that she is.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. I think we've all had good comments tonight about her leadership skills. And I think also, as we talked about before, our commitment to help her to be successful and to allow her to get to know the organization and to help utilize her skills to create that foundation and create that stability that we want to have with that too. And so I think that's, I think, a commitment that I would say we need to make to her, you know, to help her and to allow her to say, I need help with this, or we need to take more time with some of these things. And so I hope that that's our intention, and some of the comments that Mr. Herron made also, just to make sure that we are not overwhelming and not putting more things on the plate than we are capable of handling, and to get that time in to do it right and to get that foundation there for her and for our staff. So, thank you.
Additional comments from council?
Mayor, could I add just one thing? I would like to respond to Councilmember Julie Osment. You made a comment about what was in some of the comments. And one was, can she transition from a smaller city over to a larger city? And this is really common in our practice, and we get that question a lot. And you have to remember that when they are working in a smaller city, they don't have the resources that they do at a larger city. Therefore, their hands are in every single thing. And they are working, that's everything. They're working on grants. They're working on economic development. They're working with the public works, the finance. I mean, every single piece, and HR. And so actually, that is actually a plus. When you find someone coming from a smaller city going to a little larger, they've done it. So that is actually a plus.
Additional comments? Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't able to meet her, this afternoon, but I did talk to her for like 20 minutes before supper. And I was impressed with her. She's very easy to talk to. She's very knowledgeable, and she definitely knows the area. So I think she's a good candidate. And I'm just getting tired of the city spinning its wheels, and we need to get going and put it in drive. Thanks.
Additional comments? I want everybody to have an opportunity to speak. I will address some of the comments that were in the comments that we received. Again, the comments that we received were anonymous. We don't know who they came from. But I think one of the things that has been addressed here by this table is that we want to give the individual the tools to be successful. And I think some of those questions, Councilmember Fagerly and I were reading through them together on some of the comments. And we're not all perfect. we can't all be me, right? So, you know, we have to have a little grace here. Okay, that was tongue in cheek, by the way, for some of you. But we have to have a little grace here. And our staff, I think I saw an energy in the room today that I didn't see 4 weeks ago. I saw an energy in the room that they wanted to engage and they wanted to get behind somebody and support somebody. So I think that those things will happen. Again, we have to give the tools. I'm thinking, I can't believe what I just said. But anyways, the perfect piece I'm talking. But I'm trying to bring us to a point where we need to just understand that let's not overload our next administrator. Let's give them the tools to be successful and get the job done. Last chance for comments, otherwise I'm going to the vote. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
Wow, a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. That's a very strong statement. So thank you all for your leadership. This is heavy lifting. This last month has been a lot of really heavy lifting. And you guys stepped up to the plate, and I know you're committed to making this city a better city. And this is the first step to make that happen. So I really do appreciate that. So with that, Patty, I would like to congratulate you on bringing us a candidate that the council could get behind and support. The mayor does not vote unless the mayor needs to. I think everybody does know where the mayor would have voted had he needed to. But I think that Leslie will be a very good candidate for us. The next thing then we need to do is we need to put a team together to work with Baker Tilly to do the conditional offer. And so the recommendation would be Councilmember Davis and Councilmember O'Brien, because Councilmember Osmus was in there, but she's on vacation. Councilmember Davis was going to do it, but she was on vacation for the last one. So the mayor and those two council members would be who we would like to see. If there's anybody else who would wish to serve on that as well, we certainly are open to that. Is there anybody else that wishes to serve on that?
Good.
Okay, so we will work with Patty on putting the conditional offer together. You'll get together with us and tell us what that's going to look like. The parameters that we have in front of us are the same as last time. It is in the posting, and we will have to work within the parameters of that posting for making that conditional offer. The offer would then be contingent, being drafted by the city attorney, working with Baker Tilly after the terms of the offer were put together. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to direct Baker Tilly to negotiate the employment offer for the city administrator to Leslie Valiant with a team consisting of Councilmember Davis, O'Brien, and the mayor and staff from Baker Tilly.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Next on the agenda is an extension of John Herron as our interim city administrator. The Municipal Utilities Commission is willing to borrow him to us until the 12th, but no later than the 12th. I was told very clear. They would like that to be shorter if at all possible, but they would be willing to allow him to extend to the 12th. Is there a motion that the council would like to consider to extend that employment agreement with him?
So moved.
Mayor,
Mr. Herron?
when you look at the 12th, based on what Leslie said her commitment to Spicer was, and her response time, she said 3 weeks. And if we can have an agreement put together by Friday, which is a very short window, plus a special council meeting for approval, because I'm assuming it's going to take a council meeting, that puts Leslie's start date at the 19th.
Yeah, I think the plan was to try to just use overlap of staff to assist through that process.
Okay.
So that I know we kind of made, I guess I should go to Councilmember Nelson, I mean, you had the conversation, but my conversation with their chair, they really didn't want to extend past that night, that 12th date. Is that kind of what you heard too?
I was not part of that conversation, but I will just ask Mr. Herron if there is any wiggle room there to go, to extend again if we need to, once we have that answer.
Sure. Thank you, Council Member Nelson. Yeah, originally, the commission had committed to the 2nd. They really didn't want to see us go past that date. However, as things were materializing and as our other candidate had turned down the offer, Councilmember Nelson had come back and had visited with me, and I took it to the commission. They said, yeah, they would support the 12th. I don't believe that they would have any concerns or reservations with supporting the 19th if that were the wishes of the council, being that we do have an individual hired, and it just is going to take an additional week for that individual to start. I don't believe that'll be a concern with the commission.
I would suggest maybe we stay with the 12th now, and when we know that date, we could do an additional extension, which would allow you to have that conversation with them out of respect to them too, so,
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
thank you. There is there?
No,
I will make a motion. I'll make that motion to adopt a resolution to approve the extension of John Herron until July 12th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, is that at the same pay? That's a heck of a deal.
You want to stay a year? Answer questions.
Councilor Federley, I appreciate the gesture and the offer and the question, but yeah, it's short term, it's minimal. So I'm fine. Appreciate it though.
Additional comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien, Osk,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.